Hi, it's Get It UK here again. This time I'm doing the Dual SID board for the C64 here. So you can see I got one of these SID to SID boards. These are designed to go with the Messiah cartridge. Now, I've just done some checks on it because I thought what I can do is I can use this board, and what my theory was, I'd probably just have to join the address lines up, because I figured they might be mapped differently. These might be mapped to different base addresses. But actually, just testing on continuity on the meter, they're all joined up. They're both joined up in parallel, with the exception of the chip select line. You can just see CS pad mark there. So I think the way it works is this: you take the chip select from the second SID and run a wire somewhere to your motherboard or the cart port or something, for use with the Messiah, so that you can enable or disable the SIDs at different times. And write to them individually to get 6 or 8 channels instead of 4. So that's that. So the chip selects I can just join up, and then I'll have these running in parallel. Now, because I'm going to use a 6581 on one side and 858 on the other, obviously I need to power them separately. So I've got a 9 volt, a 7809 voltage regulator, which I will somehow link onto this board to power one of these SIDs. So I just need to work out which one. It's probably logical just to leave SID 1 as the one that connects it to the motherboard. So you get one of these. I'll show you. Get the damn thing. One of these wire wrap type sockets here. And it actually goes that way up the board. So it goes through there, and these little extended legs are going to come out on this side here like that. So that I can plug that into the socket, into the existing socket, and then there'll be a socket on top there for the SID. Socket there. I think is how it works. Yeah, that's right. Because it'll sit on the top of the board like that. The pins will go through the holes, and then a normal socket there. It's actually 2 sockets stuck together just at the moment. But so I've got to separate the supply because these are inverted. The VCC, the VDD is this pin here. Normally it would be that position. Looking at the profile of the chip there, it's because the board's the opposite way around. So that's the VDD. So I'll have to cut a track, make sure it's totally cut. Yeah, I think that'll be right. I need to be careful where I cut it, because I think it might be derived for some of these components here. It might not be actually. It might just be the VCC that's used for some of this stuff. So anyway, I need to isolate the 2 VDD pins from each other. This will take this SID 1 will take the 12 volts from the board for the 6581. You can see there's a couple of pads here for the capacitors, the filter capacitors, which go to those 4 pins. Like I say, flip it over, it's pins 1, 2, 3 and 4, I think, on the actual SID pin outs. So I don't need to use those because I've got the ones on the motherboard already. I might swap the ones on the motherboard for the brand new ones, which are higher quality, the brand new, so I might do that. Leave those pads empty because they'll be on the motherboard, they're not needed. It kind of makes sense. I think in the guides it says cut them off the board and stick them on here, but then you're in the scenario that if you ever remove the SIDs, you've not got any filter capacitors on your motherboard. So I would leave those pads empty, like I said, and swap the ones on the board. Join this chip selects up, populate this section here with the components that come in this kit. So there's a load of resistors and transistors and things, and I don't know, 2N quad 2s or something, I think they are. I'm not going to use that. I'm going to use a 3.5 inch socket, and I'll use one with a fly lead. I think that can just run out the back of the C64. So that will be that. So I should have the stereo audio out there. I think you can tap both of them from here. Yeah, you've got audio out here, presumably one's. You've got a ground. I'm not sure how that's working. Maybe it's mixing them. I don't know. I might need to look at that. I might need to separate the audio outs from each other as well if they're joined up. What I can do is, because this is amplified in the same sort of way as the SID 1 works, I might be able to take a fly lead from the SID 1 output that goes to the TV, if you like, goes out through the jack, the DC jack there, not DC jack, the DIN, and take the audio from here, from the other SID, and then feed those to a 3.5mm socket. What else? Yes, and then the final thing is just making sure, like I say, that the VDDs are separated, and that I'm providing this chip here, its VDD has been derived by a 7809. and then I'll mark this to say, you know, 8580 9 volts or something, just so that it's absolutely clear, should I ever start messing around with this, that you know, which chip, which socket is which ones. I might even put 12 volts 9 volts on each of these, so that I know exactly which is which. And obviously this one will need the capacitors for an 8580. So yeah, I'll report back in a minute when I've got some of the components on there. So here's the almost end result. You can see got the 2 sockets on here, got all the components and things. I've got my 7809 voltage regulator there, and on the underside you can see I've joined the chip selects up. That little pad down there goes across the chip select on the second SID, or the first SID rather, so they're both joined up. Everything else is in parallel apart from the VDD, so SID 1 is using whatever's passed through the board, which in this case is 12 volts, which then feeds into this regulator, which then provides SID 2 with 9 volts. SID 2's got its caps on there. SID 1 uses the ones from the pass-through on the board, so that's all okay. This transistor, yeah, it's easy to mount it underneath actually. It shows that actually in the instructions, just because the way the pin arrangement is, you'd have to, you know, put one of the pins almost between the two. It'd be quite close there, so it does show it to be mounted upside down like that in the instructions. And I don't think there's anything else to cover there really. I mean, what I'm going to do with this now is I'll plug this in with no SIDs, measure the voltage here to make sure the VDD's right for SID 1, measure the voltage there to make sure I'm getting 9 volts, test the heat of that regulator to make sure it's not getting too hot, because it may well be. Dropping down from 12 to 9, then maybe it might need a heat sink or something on that, not sure yet. Then I'll try it with a single SID in here, the 6581, to make sure that still works, and then as long as I've got 9 volts here, I will try it with the second SID and we'll see what we get. For the moment I've just got this fly lead coming off here, it's a couple of separate wires. I will use a shielded pair type wire, and I'll replace this with an inline 3.5mm socket. That's just for testing. I've actually got a socket and some wire on order, but yeah, just to test it, I just want to make sure I'm getting this second channel coming out of here, which I can feed into the TV. So I'll rip my system apart now and we'll just check this. Hopefully you can see that now. One thing you'll notice, I've had to just bend the regulator up here just to get out of the way of the socket at the back. I've just powered it up with no SIDs and it works okay, which is to be expected, unless I've done something horrendously wrong with the wiring. And if I switch it on, we'll just measure the VDD here. So that's 12 volts that would be going to SID 1, and here 9 volts going to SID 2. So I'm quite comfortable with that. I'll just leave it on for a few seconds and we'll just test that heat of that regulator there. Stone cold. There's nothing being drawn through at the moment, so that's to be expected. So I'll try it with my 6581 in, make sure everything's still working with that. Leave it on for a few minutes, test the heat of the regulator there, and if it's still cool, I'll then try it with an 8580, and again, just be mindful of the temperature of this building up too quickly. So that's one of the things I'm going to be paying close attention of right at the start there. I'm not going to sort of leave it on for 20 or 30 minutes without checking that very regularly, just to make sure it's not building up heat. So there we go, that's with the 6581, just coming out of one channel on the TV at the moment. So we'll do the same thing. Yeah, it's nice and cool, that regulator. We'll do the same thing with the 8580 now. There we go, that's working with both. And that 9 volt regulator is very, very, very cold. It's probably lukewarm actually. It's not that it's not getting any heat at all, there's a little bit. But if I disconnect the TV connections here, you'll see that's the one, that's the 6581. 6581 back, and that is the 8580. So there we have it. That's a success, I think. And the only reason I went for the SID to SID board here and done the small modifications is because I couldn't get hold of a dual SID board. As I said, the author's, the guy who makes the boards there, he's not done a batch for a few months now. He may well do some later in the year, and I'll probably grab one of those and stick one of those in my other C64s, but I just wanted something quick and easy. I could have done this with matrix board, because all you do with this basically is you just join in all the pins in parallel of all of both chips except for the VDD and the audio output, and then the audio output's got this sort of preamp type stuff going on here, with the transistors to amplify the signal. But yeah, I'm quite comfortable with that. I just need to think about that regulator. I'm not that happy with the way that's stuck up at a funny angle at the moment. I might mount that somewhere else yet. And obviously I need to deal with the proper fly lead coming off for this, because that is not how we intend to leave this. I'm going to have a twisted pair wire or something coming out here, shielded, with a phono socket or something, or an inline. I think it's an inline 3.5mm socket I've ordered, actually. At the same time, I can perhaps tap into the audio output, from the connector here as well directly, so that it's a stereo connector, and that way I'm not having to take the sound from here as well as I am at the moment. But yeah, that's working well. So I thought you could just hear it working here. Actually, this game is highly noticeable with an 8580. There's a particular sort of sound on one of the channels that you just don't get on a 6581. It's like a mechanical sort of noise. It's that. Normally you hardly get that at all. So that's coming out really well. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.